Alright, measurements of economic performance, video 2.3, the meaning and calculation of unemployment. Alright, so we're going to go through exactly what it means to be employed, unemployed. Some of these definitions seem like they wouldn't be necessary because, they seem so obvious, but that isn't really the case, in fact. So we're going to start with employed. This one probably is exactly what you'd think. So employed person is just somebody who has a job, whether it is full or part-time. And we'll get to why that distinction is important in just a couple minutes, because it doesn't matter. It can be a full-time job, it can be a part-time job. Either way, that person's employed if they have a job. On the other hand, unemployed people are not people who simply don't have a job. There's two things that are required for you to be officially counted by the U.S. government as unemployed. Not only do you have to not have a job currently, but you also have to actively be looking for a job. If you don't have a job but you aren't looking, then you are not counted as unemployed. And that is a very important distinction, because when we look at an unemployment rate and see how high or low it is, it often underestimates the true rate of unemployment, because it does not count people who stop looking or who are not looking for a job. So unemployed means not only to not have a job, but also to be currently looking. Alright, so we have a couple other statistics. So in a minute we're going to calculate unemployment rate and labor force participation rate. But to do that, we first have to define what the labor force is. So the labor force is just the total number of people who are either employed or unemployed. So if we add up the employed people plus unemployed people, that is equal to our labor force. And you see this chart here gives you an idea that currently the United States labor force is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 150 to 160 million people. And it breaks it down by gender for you. That's a pretty good estimate. So when we use that number, it can tell us a couple things. First of all, it can tell us our labor force participation rate. And what we're looking at there is we're trying to figure out how many people in this country who are aged 16 and over are in the labor force. So as a percentage of the population. So you guys have the definition there for you. So just to make up some numbers here, and I know it would be easier if these were written down, but it's okay. If we had 100 million people in the country total, so we use really, really easy numbers. We have 100 million people in the country. 50 million people are employed, and let's say 25 million people are unemployed. Can ask a few different questions from that. First, what is our total labor force? So we would just add those numbers. 50 plus 25 equals 75 million. So that is our labor force. If I asked you what the labor force participation rate is, it means it's 75 million out of 100 million. So you do 75 over 100, and that's going to equal 75% of the population, age 16 and over, is in the labor force. Now we also can use those numbers to figure out the unemployment rate. And so this is defined as the percentage of the total number of people in the labor force who are unemployed. So now the people who aren't in the labor force, they don't matter for this number. Okay, that's kind of the key thing here, is that we have, so again, using those same numbers, 50 million people employed, 25 million people unemployed. So our labor force is 75 million total. The percent that's unemployed, well, we do 25 over 75. All right, and that's going to come out to 33.33%. So that would be our unemployment rate. All right, so we don't care about the people who aren't in the labor force. For this number, percent of people that are in the labor force who are unemployed. That's the biggest challenge in this section. Probably is just making sure that you are calculating these things properly, because the math itself, hopefully you're seeing the math isn't difficult. You're just doing a basic percentage at this point. Alright, now not everybody is counted as unemployed even if they don't have a job. So we have a couple different groups. We have discouraged workers first of all. Discouraged workers are non-working people who have given up looking for a job due to the state of the labor market. So this is somebody who, kind of like those pictures, they've given up. They've had a job, or been out of a job, for so long that they don't even look for a job anymore. They've gotten so discouraged because they can't find a job. So once they stop looking, the Department of Labor no longer calls them unemployed anymore. So that makes that unemployment number fall. We have fewer unemployed people, but really do we? And the answer is of course not. that guy, to him, it doesn't matter whether he's counted as unemployed or not. For all intents and purposes, he's unemployed. He doesn't have a job. So he's in a poor economic situation. What the Department of Labor Bureau of Statistics looks at is they look at who is out of work and not looking. So this could give a false measure of unemployment, because it's going to cause the unemployment rate to go down once it becomes so bad that he becomes discouraged. A very, very similar group is that there are marginally attached workers. These are workers who would like to work, have looked in the recent past, but they have currently given up. So it's very, very similar to discouraged workers. There isn't a huge distinction between the two. Probably the best distinction is the amount of time that's passed since they've given up. Marginally attached probably are ones who just gave up. And they probably would start looking again without, they could be nudged in that direction, but at the moment they're not looking. So they aren't counted as unemployed either. Neither are people who are underemployed. Underemployed, so like you see in the picture there, waitress, PhD, that won't happen to you if you study econ. Probably not. Actually, look up the salary for master's degrees in economics. It's not too shabby if you're interested in what you're hearing. So underemployed people are people who work part-time because they cannot find a full-time job. So they want a full-time job, but they can't find one, so they are stuck working a part-time job or a job that is well beneath their qualifications. And so they have a job. They're not counted as unemployed because of that factor, but they are considered underemployed. All right, and then towards the end here we have the relationship between GDP and unemployment. And this is a pretty simple inverse or negative relationship. As the GDP rises, the economy grows, we're producing more stuff, so we need more workers. So unemployment will fall. And that's going to be a basis of Unit 3, Unit 4, Unit 5. When GDP rises, unemployment falls, and vice versa. When the economy slows down, we produce less, then unemployment is going to, on the other hand, rise. Okay? This has been a LaMoney production.